Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Filibuster. We've got an interview with Joe Cornish, the writer-director of Attack the Block, co-writer of Adventure of Tintin and Ant-Man with Edgar Wright, and one half of the incredible Adam and Joe, and now writer-director of the wonderful family film The Kid Who Would Be King, which is in UK and American cinemas now. The film tells the story of Alex, who thinks he's just another nobody, until he stumbles upon the mythical sword in the stone, Excalibur. Now he must unite his friends and enemies into a band of knights, and together with the legendary wizard Merlin, played by Patrick Stewart, they must take on the wicked enchantress Morgana, played by Rebecca Ferguson, and with the future at stake, Alex must become that great leader he never dreamed he could be. Joe talks with us about the making of the film, his long journey from an idea at the age of 11 to present day, and his experiences over the years working in the industry. And thanks so much to Joe for joining me and guest host Jamie Mackay for this interview. As you'll be able to tell, we are big fans, and it was a special moment for us to be invited along. Hope you'll enjoy this episode and check out the movie. It's got an 88% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's going to put a smile on your face when you catch it with the family. Enjoy. Watching the Kid Who Would Be King reminded me of when I was a young kid, and there would be movies that were aimed at young kids where you think, this is for me, not for the parents. And now it seems that every movie for kids these days is a 12A superhero movie that's for kids, adults, granny, grandpa. Was this a conscious decision that you were like, I want to make this kind of movie for my second feature?
I guess so. It's an idea I had when I was a kid. So it's not necessarily an intellectual decision. It was more like, oh, I love this story. I want to make it. But I agree with you that most kids' movies are either animation or superhero based, with adults walking around in spandex. And I do miss movies like the movies I grew up on, where you could go to the cinema aged 10, 11, 12 and see yourself in an adventure in the real world, you know, with real scares and real stakes. Not that I don't love, you know, big, silly superhero movies. Sometimes I think like the Adam and Joe show was part of that wave of pop culture that looked like it was for children but was actually for adults. Included The Simpsons and South Park, and that we're really part of that generation of moronic kidults who kind of responsible for the merging of grown-up culture and youth culture. So in a small way I'm to blame, but maybe I'm making up for it by doing something now that's purely for kids.
What were those movies that when you were a kid that were the ones that inspired you and put you into that kind of world?
Well, the first movie I ever saw on my own was a film called The Black Stallion, that not many people have heard of now, but it's one of the most beautiful kids' movies ever made, I think. And I saw it on my own in the cinema. It's about a boy that's shipwrecked, and he survives with an Arabian racehorse. They're both washed up on a desert island, and they bond and protect each other. And then he takes the racehorse home to Middle America. Then he ends up riding it in this amazing horse race at the end. And that's a brilliant movie, directed by Carol Ballard, shot by Caleb Dashnell, Zooey Dashnell's dad, brilliant cinematographer. E.T., of course, I was sort of the same age as Henry Thomas Eliot in E.T. when that came out. Also saw that on my own, very powerful effect on me. And then all the standard ones, you know, Explorers, Stand By Me, Young Sherlock Holmes, Goonies, all of that good stuff.
Well, like you were saying that you've had this idea of the film in your head since you were like a young boy.
Time Bandits, I should say, as well.
Like, how many iterations of that movie has it gone over in sort of the past decade, from script to idea to execution? How many times has it changed, or has it always been relatively consistent?
I had a few different beginnings. For a while it started with all the kids from the school on a field trip to a medieval castle, and the lead kid got chased into a forest and he found the sword in a forest. So there were all sorts of little variations, but it sort of stayed the same. The first act and the last act always stayed the same since I was about 12 or 13. It was the middle I couldn't figure out. It's always the tough bit in the screenplay, the middle. So it has stayed the same. I have movie posters I drew as a young teenager with that image of the sword coming out of the bath scribbled on them.
That'll be a Blu-ray special feature. Look at the photo gallery.
It's too late. We've done the Blu-ray, and it's not a Blu-ray special feature.
I read that like you and Nira Park, the producer on the film, visited schools and met with kids to find out what they knew about Arthur, the Sword and the Stone, Knights of the Round Table. What was their kind of responses to this, or is that something that they still kind of know about?
Yeah, it's the good thing about King Arthur is that you don't need to know that much about it apart from the most famous elements. And I think everybody has an awareness of the most famous elements: the Sword and the Stone, Merlin, the Lady in the Lake, the Round Table. Even if you don't know all the weird little stories about all the individual knights, even if you don't know what happened to King Arthur himself, you usually know those things either through the BBC show Merlin, or through the Disney cartoon, or through Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And we did go around a bunch of schools and talk to groups of kids to find out how much they knew, and that was reassuring that they all knew what, most of them knew what the Sword and the Stone was. And it turned into a conversation about kingship and about what it would mean if a normal kid drew this stone. Like, so what if you're the king? You wouldn't be royal, you wouldn't have royal blood or royal lineage. What possible change could you make on the world? And that was very interesting to hear how much they felt they could change the world or not, you know.
And kind of were studios worried about this when you started like pitching this script, about it being sort of like, it does have a concepts of like Arthur, which we kind of all know about, but it's like an original story. It's not based on a comic book. It's not based on a article in the New Yorker or something like that. Were people worried about taking on a project like this?
Yeah, it's kind of a miracle it got made at this scale. If they were worried about it, they probably wouldn't have financed it. So they were confident about the movie, and they still they really love the movie because audiences really love it. It is tough to get people to see it, though, I think, because audiences are so risk averse. Mass audiences tend only to buy tickets for sequels and stuff based on brands they're familiar with. That's becoming increasingly an unavoidable truth. And that's why so many good directors have buggered off to streaming services. But I can't help but hold out hope that, it's not going to be like that forever, you know. But no, actually, we raised finance for it pretty fast and made it pretty quickly.
That must be reassuring in this world, as you say, of these kind of sequels and Netflix streams, that people are still investing in movies like this for a young audience, and it's not just trying to say it's got to be for every single person. It can be for these people too.
Well, people who run studios, by and large, love movies, and they know what movies are good and they know what movies aren't so good, and they care about reviews. And if they've made something a bit shit that's made fuckloads of money, I think they're as sort of confused as you and I are. I think. I guess they're probably very, very happy because it's made loads of money. But the other thing is, movies last a while, and Attack the Block didn't set the box office on fire by any means, but
we were definitely there opening weekend, though.
Well, God bless you both. But it seems to be remembered now, whereas maybe some of those other movies that did better on the opening weekend.
Be interesting to see what actually came out that weekend, what was in that box office then.
I think it was pretty much, it was a tiny movie, but I remember Thor. Was the Thor sequel? Thor 2?
I can't remember.
I think it was a Thor movie that totally dominated that weekend. So, it's a long game.
So see the success of the actors in Attack the Block, like John Pyle, Jodie Whittaker and stuff like that. Is that come back to Attack the Block? Or more people come back to see it, do you think? Or?
Yeah, definitely. It can't do any harm to have Finn from Star Wars in the movie. No, Attack the Block is well in profit now. It's taken longer than it took longer than the opening weekend, but it's definitely made its money back. And it does not do any harm to have Doctor Who and Finn fighting aliens.
And I think is casting important to you? Because this is another great cast that you've assembled here, and you look at the cast of something like Attack the Block as well. How do you sort of go around casting to find potentially people that will explode potentially in a few years' time? Have you got an eye where you think, oh, look at that Jodie Whittaker, she is going to be someone that's special over time?
Well, Jodie was pretty well known when we cast her in Attack the Block, and it was actually exciting that she agreed to do it, because she was sort of in a world where she could have taken bigger parts than that. John had never done anything before, but his charisma and ability was pretty evident from the first casting tapes. The way I describe it is this, and it's a weird analogy, but you know, if you're at school and you are attracted to someone and you feel you're the only person who's noticed how beautiful they are, but then a couple of weeks later you realise everyone else has. Oh, I fancy her, I love her, I'm the only one who does. Oh no, everyone in the school is. It's like that. I mean, people who have that star quality, everybody sees it, not just you. So it's not as if I've got an amazing eye, I'm just seeing something that exists, putting it in a film, and then everybody else just sees it too. So and you, really it's the casting directors who deserve the credit for bringing that person to your attention.
I'm curious as well, for like the writing of the character of Alex, how much of yourself do you kind of put in there? Because I suppose we're lucky that we know a lot about how your childhood and your early years. We listen to your podcast, radio. We know about your hijinks and karaoke songs. Like,
worrying thought.
What's it like for you when you're writing kind of younger characters? Do you invest much of yourself into that, or do you sort of write something kind of completely blank?
I don't know really. I think I'm quite immature, so to a degree, yes. I always do a little bit of research at the beginning. Like for Attack the Block, it was maybe characters that were further from who I am, so I did more in-depth research. This kid's a bit more of a sort of every kid. But no, I don't know. I mean, the other thing is I've been writing since I was 12 or 13. All I was ever good at school was creative writing, so I did it a lot, and I wrote loads of screenplays, and I've never stopped really, so maybe there's still the voice of a frustrated, 12-year-old.
You had like someone like Patrick Stewart who was in this, who was in Excalibur. You got Rebecca Ferguson on weekends after working on Mission Impossible. What was it like to work with these two? I mean, I'm a huge fan of them both as well.
Well, it was really good fun because they are both big stars and they're both brilliant, and they both happen to be really decent, funny, down-to-earth people. It's a horrible phrase, down-to-earth, but it's the only one I can think of. Patrick was particularly exciting because he was in the original Excalibur movie, so that felt really good. And also, he's Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
He's Professor X. He's Jean-Luc Picard. He's an amazing actor, and it's a real thrill to direct the scene, walk back behind the monitor, and then see your lines performed by an actor of that quality. And Rebecca is one of the most fun people I've ever met. Just going on chat shows with her is a scream. And she got on brilliantly with the kids, and she loved doing the part. And again, seeing my half-assed dialogue made whole-assed by her was fantastic.
With the kids as well, you've got the big climax. What was that like to shoot a big scene with like young kids? Like, I can imagine being, if I was a young kid in that thing, like if either I'm shooting it or taking part in it, that would be the most exciting day of my life doing that. What was it like to manage all those kids and to shoot something like that?
Well, luckily I have a lot of people to help me with that. Assistant directors who do the actual managing. And by the time you actually get to shoot a scene like that, you've worked it out in such detail. It's like a sort of mini military campaign. But what makes the difference is that the kids are really excited to do it and to be there. If you offer a young actor the opportunity to ride on a moped with a samurai sword and decapitate an alien, or to throw a rope with a stool tied to the end of it around the flailing tail of a winged demon, they're going to be up for it.
You've worked on a lot of you've been involved with a lot of projects between sort of Attack the Block and this, and been on sets. What things did you sort of pick up between the two movies that changed you as a director between your first film and your second film?
God, I don't really know. I suppose I did a bunch of writing between the two, so I got a chance to think about this one structurally and think about the script. If anything, I suppose I learnt a lot about the industry and how it really works, and all the various fantasies I had about it met with reality. I got a chance to develop stuff and take it through various stages, and Hollywood and the film industry in general is full of a lot of hyperbole. You've got to fill your idea balloon with kind of enthusiasm before it'll float.
Yeah.
And different balloons rise to different heights, and some fall away again. It's not a place where people are incredibly honest. It's very aspirational, so people are very quick to be positive, and it's hard to find any negativity. So it's often tricky to figure out where you stand in situations.
And because I remembered when you were linked with, say, like Star Trek Beyond, because I'm like a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
I remember you being linked. I was like, oh my god, Joe Cornish. Like, I've always had this feeling about you, where it's like you're one of our own. So when I see your name on like a Tintin or an Ant-Man thing, where I was like, oh, that's Joe Cornish. He's one of our kind of guys and stuff like that. When you make a movie like this, that you've gone out, you've made your own original kind of blockbuster movie, and then you've got all these choices of like the blockbuster movies that have come your way or been suggested. Do you feel sort of full of confidence, as you were saying, that you maybe lack the confidence to make these sort of tentpole movies? Do you now feel that you've got the confidence to do that, or you feel like, wow, I've made 2 of my own original movies, this is the way I want to continue making films, and that's what makes me happy?
Yeah, I do not know. I flip-flop between the two, because I'd love to make something that is a massive success commercially, and looking at the marketplace, you seem to have a brand to get that quantity of bums on seats to work with a budget that big. So if I found something that I really believed in, I would definitely do it. But I'm also very aware of the risks, because lots of friends of mine have had tough times on big movies. Do you think I should have done Star Trek?
I would have been up for that. I was saying it to Jamie earlier. I was like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I know who Joe Cornish is and that kind of work. I could be like the expert of like, so who is this new director that's weighing in? Right, get this guy on to be the Joe Cornish
I
expert.
think the bottom line is I didn't feel I knew enough. Weirdly, Adam is a massive Star
I know,
Trek
that's what we
obsessive.
said.
Like, if I'd been him, if his brain could have been, if I could have taken his brain, borrowed his brain, that's what I should have done, had him as a consultant.
I remember saying that at the time. I was like, oh, that's great for Joe Cornish, but I'm sure it was Adam Buxton that was the huge Star Trek fan of the two. And do you feel that there is a pressure on directors? The amount of times that, I can't remember the name of the director off the top of my head, she's just finished like The Rider, and now she's off to make this Marvel movie. And that is a traditional route, is that, they make a great indie movie, right, this is someone that we can put into our system and we'll go make movies. Do you feel like there is pressure to go off and do these films? Or, I read about a studio this week that is now been merged, and they're cutting down from like 16 movies a year to like 8. Is there that pressure now of like, if these chances to make your own movies are so rare that you've got to take the big tentpole ones because you might never get the chance to make an original Joe Cornish film?
Yes, your analysis of the industry is exactly right, and I know as much as you do. That's the weird thing. It's not like you get, and in fact the heads of the studios know as much as you do. It's not like anyone has amazing insights. So that's exactly the dilemma that everybody faces. You've either got to work with a much lower budget, or you've got to work within a brand, or a production system. You tell me, make the choice for me, please.
And have you been always someone that enjoys that kind of control? I always think like the Adam and Joe show, the little vignettes and how everything was put together, handcrafted, where you could say, well, that what I'm watching is all of their work. Whereas you can watch maybe sort of a larger scale movie and you go, that's Joe Cornish's element, and then that could be the second unit director, or that could be the CGI house. Is that something that you've always looked for, is that control and being able to influence a little bit of everything?
Well, I've been very lucky. Adam and I both have. Like, everything we've done has been, from our weird twisted hearts, and usually that's meant either being on the radio or on late night low budget television. We've always had to find a weird niche where we can author stuff. It's tough to find weird niches in movie making because it's so expensive.
What's been the sort of surreal thing for you in that sort of journey from, say, like the Adam and Joe show to appearing in things like Star Wars, The Last Jedi, working with Steven Spielberg, you know, someone like J.J. Abrams is calling you to maybe work on something. What's been the most kind of surreal moment for you as like a fan of sort of that kind of genre stuff, but also for you as a filmmaker, as a professional?
Probably the first time I walked in a room and sat down opposite Steven Spielberg was pretty amazing, just because I'm an 80s kid and you know, like everybody who was born when I was born that loves movies, he was a massive presence in my imagination, you know. But reality sets in pretty quickly when you're in a situation like that, because you can't just sit there staring and dribbling much as you'd like to.
I'm trying my best not to do that just now.
Well, I'm sure, you know. So that was amazing. But then you've got to knuckle down and try and do the work. So it's half amazing and half kind of terrifying.
And kind of finally, what's like the best advice these people have given you, and what's the best advice you can give now you've done your second feature, it's starting to go around the world? What's the best advice you can give to someone?
About what?
Just about like filmmaking and kind of creating work that you're passionate about.
Well, I think the key is just to do it, to find a way to produce stuff, whether it's with teddy bears or a screenplay. Just make stuff. Don't wait for somebody to give you permission. What you want is somebody to notice what you're already doing and pay you to do it. But just start. In fact, one of the best bits of advice was said by an old friend of Adam and mine, Fran Healy, the lead singer of Travis.
I've interviewed him before. He's a brilliant guy.
He's a lovely guy. But he said you've got to be on the mountain to be struck by lightning. You can't be at the bottom of the mountain. Like you've got to have made the effort to be on the mountain when it's raining. Otherwise, you're not going to get struck by the lightning. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
that's brilliant. I'm going to steal that one and give that advice.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I often think of that.
And have you got any final questions, Jamie?
Actually, back to the Attack of the Block. See the aliens. I think they're quite unique compared to any of the other ones I've seen. Like I kind of think there's a divide. They kind of look a bit scary, but they also have a kind of almost like a design toy. And I'm wondering, when you went to Tokyo, obviously there's a big culture of like designer toys and stuff like that, and I'm wondering, has that been an influence?
Maybe. It's definitely shadow puppetry, which is Japanese, and then what are the little black soot sprites in one of those Studio Ghibli movies? Is it Spirited Away where there are the black soot sprites?
I know the one. It's not that one, I think.
Is it Totoro?
Totoro's got one,
it's one of those. So I mean they really came from my cat. So I grew up with a black cat that always looked like a silhouette when it was backlit. Didn't have glowy teeth, but glowy teeth were just probably those glow-in-the-dark Dracula fangs you used to get. There's a video game called Another World, an early SNES video game, and then the illustration of the aliens on the side of the original Space Invaders arcade cabinet. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. But it was mainly the idea of something that was so black that it absorbed light, and that you could just deal with the silhouette. You wouldn't have to work with any detail within it that made it affordable. So blokes in furry suits, and then just rub out the. I had that idea really early on. Surely that would be cheap, just to rub it out, to black it out. But it was really hard work to get people to understand what I was talking about. Because they weren't used to working in that way at all. And so many of the processes in filmmaking are set in their ways. Very difficult to bend things in other directions.
But thank you so much for talking with us. It's been a real pleasure and honour. I know you've rarely ever been on podcasts before, so it's been a real treat for us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.